Simon Igbinedon. He is an associate professor, Faculty of Law. So glad to have you on this program this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, listener. My name is actually Simeon.
Simeon, I beg your pardon.
Aha. Yes. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much for correcting that.
Thank you.
All right, so now, just like I said before you came in, this ASUU strike, it's becoming a year thing. I remember 2 years ago, I interviewed Professor Ayola, I think he's the president for ASUU UI chapter, and he brought documents, signed agreements between the federal government and ASUU, signed agreements that they were going to do so, but they never did it. So my question is, why are we having recurring strikes every now and then? Is it that the federal government are always reneging on the agreement? Is it that they are not always agreeing? Or, I mean, seems to be the problem?
Well, the problem is simple. You have actually answered the question. The federal government has always been reneging. The government has been entering into negotiations with ASUU, supposedly in good faith, but ultimately, from the benefit of hindsight, the government has not really been doing so with, in good faith, because the government is used to taking ASUU through all sorts of negotiations, and because ASUU is an association of refined members and peace-loving members. They always give the government the time. They always have this feeling that, well, let's give the government a chance. Let's try it out. And you see that some negotiations have lasted up to 3 years, giving ASUU members false hope that something will happen, something good will happen at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, with the agreement concluded, the government will refuse to sign or implement. They will not go back to square one. That has been the tactic of the government. The government has not displayed good faith. That is why ASUU continues to struggle, to advocate for better conditions of service. And we are still here. And it's not just this government alone, from successive governments to date, the story remains the same.
All right, so if I may ask you now to the main question, what are the main demands of ASUU in the context of the SAZU ZUNGUR University strike?
The main demands, the SAZU, that is I think, go on, yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think the ASUU's main demand, they are there. The one is the 2009 agreement. That is the foundational agreement.
2009?
Agreement. That was the agreement. There was an agreement, 2009 agreement. But thereafter, the government refused to sign or refused to enforce. The government now said that the agreement was a gentleman's agreement. That is another way of saying that, look, we are not bound by that agreement. Despite the fact that the government took ASUU through all the negotiating processes. 2009. Then thereafter, when the government refused to enforce that agreement, then there was a breakdown then there was no industrial peace anymore in the universities. So what then happened was that when there was a strike, of course, that is the last resort for ASUU. When they now embarked on strike, the government now said, okay, we cannot enforce the agreement because of the terms there. We don't have the money and all that. So let's negotiate. In the spirit of openness, ASUU agreed. The government has set up 1, 2, 3, I think the four committees separately to renegotiate the negotiated agreement. And at every point in time, the government has always been, when the committee submitted their report, the government would reject it. The government kept on rejecting the final agreement that has been reached by the committee it has set up. So that is where we are. The demands of ASUU, the government knows them. There are many, but the government knows them.
All right, Doctor, let me come in here. Must it be a strike? Is there any other way, really? But before you answer, though, do you think that when there's going to be a meeting, when there are calls for people to come to the round table, do you think it should not just be ASUU and the federal government? Do you think the legislature and the judiciary should be involved. Do you think when they make this agreement, it should be binding by law?
Yes, the essence of going into an agreement is to avert industrial disharmony. There is a working agreement. There is an implied agreement that we are going into this negotiation for a particular purpose, and that purpose is to ensure that there is industrial peace, so that our demands will be met. That is it. Why do people go into agreement? To avert war, so to speak. So now there is the underlying agreement, understanding that we are going into, the government knows too, ASUU knows, that we are going into this agreement for the purpose of ensuring that these demands, these foundational demands are met. Demands, they are germane. Demands as to revitalizing the university system. Demands as to upgrading the welfare package for lecturers. Demands as to paying what is due to us, to ASUU. So now, when you enter into an agreement and you have concluded, good faith demands that you sign so that it will be implemented peacefully. But at that, having gone through series of processes of negotiations, maybe 2 or 3 years, then at the end of the day, you say, well, sorry, I cannot implement this agreement.
Yeah,
because I cannot.
Which is why I'm asking. So good faith alone doesn't cut it. Now I'm saying, should this become a law when you have this agreement? Should it be binding by law so that
the agreement? Yeah, it should be. Yeah, that's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah,
because you cannot just take me through 3 years of negotiation. Because ordinarily, before I agreed to that negotiation, I was embarking on strike, which is my right to do. But you now say, okay, please call off the strike. We want peace. We want you to continue working. Let's agree. Let's come and talk. Then after the talking, after the talk show for 2-3 years, then you are not telling me that, look, sorry, I cannot. It's like we are just wasting my time. It is not fair. It is not fair. It is unlawful, really, because law expects that people who are fighting, people who are in contention, law expects that. You don't have to bring everything, all the cases to court. You can even settle out of court, and the court will recognize that. You can settle out of court, and the court will recognize it. So, but the government not signing it means that, look, I was just going on a jamboree. I was just trying to play you to make you waste your time, exhaust you, and of course, you go back to work. That is it.
All right, so Professor Simeon, I would like to ask, we are in a new dispensation. I remember Professor Oshodeke complained of the former administration, the Minister of Education, at a point he walked out during the meeting, during one of these meetings. So he complained a whole lot about the Minister of Education. He complained a whole lot, expressed dissatisfaction about the former administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. So how would you describe the body language of this administration towards ASUU, towards negotiation, towards collective bargaining? Do you say it's fair? Or would you say they are not?
I wouldn't say so, but I think in as much as we keep our fingers crossed, I think the government is more than 1 year old. And the government, I believe, prepared for this job. And they knew what are on ground during Buhari's regime. So having come to power, why, and you know what ASUU went through, and having come to power, what have you done? Must you even say, okay, let us go to that agreement, for example? Why should you wait for ASUU to strike, to be telling you, reminding you over and over again that there is problem in the ivory tower? Why can't you use why can't you, through governmental policy, carry out reforms? For example, on its own, the government increases the salaries of judges. They earn 1 million plus. A professor in the university does not earn up to 500,000 naira.
Wow.
When I was doing my sabbatical in ICPC in Abuja, there were new graduates employed fresh. I asked, how much at the entry point, how much does this fresh graduate, per person, how much do they earn? They told me 400,000 naira. 400,000 naira. Imagine somebody that I lectured, I trained in the university, he has just got a job, 400,000 naira. The professor in the university, a long-standing professor, does not earn up to 500,000 naira. And the government is sitting down there saying that anytime ASUU makes some noises and try to do something to attract the attention of the government is saying, well, you are too much. Why are you disturbing? That ASUU is doing this and all that. It is very unfair. So what I'm saying that from the government on its own, without even waiting for ASUU to say, come implement this agreement and all that, they know what to do. They know how they are increasing their own salaries to reflect the changing reality of times. As I speak to you, the salaries of lecturers, professors and all, cannot take them home. That is the truth. And yet the government is expecting the best result from the universities. How is that possible?
That's $1 million question if you ask me. So let me ask this, Professor. What challenges then would you say hinder effective collective bargaining between ASUU and the government or university administrations? Would you say it is politicking on the side of government, or would you say it's a lack of effective communication on the side of ASUU? What do you think exactly is the challenge?
The challenge is that the government really, the ASUU is approaching every negotiation with an open mind, with the mind that, well, let's try it out, let's try to work it out. But the government on its side, the government does not have that open mind. In the beginning, the government may say that, well, let's go in there and try to negotiate and all that. But at the end of the day, just like I've told you, the government does not come out clean. So for you to enter into a negotiation, a collective bargaining, there must be, the two parties must do so with an open mind, in the spirit of give and take. But even when ASUU has been given and taken in the processes, the government has not appreciated that. That is number one. And number two, of course, there's the issue of politicking, really. Politicking in the sense that that it's like, you know, it is not just this government, it's successive governments, from military to civilian government. That is like, that appears to be a conspiracy. Because, you know, ASUU is vocal. ASUU, we have, is a group of people that are into learning. We learn every day, all right? They dispense knowledge. So ASUU is difficult to break. ASUU will tell you straight away what it is. But the government appears not to like that. There appears to have been a grand conspiracy to impoverish ASUU members, right? So that you make them, once you impoverish them, you pauperize them, then they will bow. But they will not bow, really, because knowledge is power. So that is the politicking, because if you are talking the spiritual realm, for example, if it's for those who are spiritual, they will say it's an envious power. They are envious of ASUU members, all right? Yeah, they are envious, and they want to keep us down. They know what to do to upgrade our salaries. To upgrade a professor earning 450,000 naira, that is $281.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering, Professor, what would be the basis of envy, though? I don't understand. Why it should be a collaborative work and not, you know, divide and conquer.
Envy. They don't like us because they know that we tell truth to power. They don't want people who they need sycophants around them. They don't want those who will look at the books, look at the statistics, and tell them the way it is, exactly the way it is. They don't want that. So somehow, indirectly, they are dealing with us. We know, quote unquote, they deal with us by saying, okay, since you are not confrontational, because you are telling me what I don't really want to hear, then I will not give you what I'm supposed to give you. That is what I understand. It is in the spirit of that government is entering into negotiation with us with the hope, and ultimately they will not back out to say that, look, it is not binding. It's not binding. And then when ASUU goes on track, they will forum shop. They will go to the industrial court that, well, we can invoke no work, no pay, and all that. It's all the same scheme of trying to impoverish ASUU. Now, if you do that, how will the university system survive? And of course, I can understand. Most of these people, most of the government officials, most of them, their children, they are not even in the university here in this country. They send their children abroad to go to attend schools in the best of schools. And they don't, in most cases, they don't even use their own money. They use the money, government money, to do so.
All right, Dr. Simeon. Dr. Simeon, if I may come in here, there has always been this debate or this talk about making it a law for political leaders to have their children, children, study, finish their education in Nigeria. Maybe that will help them also improve education. What's your take on this?
Possibly, yeah, that would be fine. So that it's not just education. Yeah, they talk about medical tourism, for example, that you be, instead of you going abroad to go and seek medical attention, why not upgrade the facilities we have here so that you will do it here, and even those from outside of the country can even come here for some refuge. Yes, I support that there should be a law that if you are if you are not just a minister, if you are a government official, your children should come in here, should receive their education here in Nigeria. If you don't, you have a choice in the matter. If you are comfortable, you will be a minister. You will occupy your position. If you are not comfortable, then you vacate that seat.
That's a valid point.
That somehow we have to try to infuse some level of nationalism or patriotism in these people. And it will appear as if that's my take.
Yeah, that's a valid point, Professor. We are wrapping this up. But quickly, though, in a minute, if you could answer this, why we want to talk about why it is important for this monster to be just silenced once and for all. What are the long-term implications of frequent ASUU strikes for Nigeria's educational system?
There are so many implications, including the fact that the educational system will be unstable. And the students, of course, that will be affected, really. A student who has enrolled for a 4-year course, for example, may end up graduating after 7 years. And that is counterproductive. And also, it affect the system of education here in this country. We are always looking at the ranking, world ranking of universities and all that. And you see the ranking of where we don't even feature in the first 1,000 even. We don't feature because we don't have what it takes to compete with those other universities. And also, you see that with this kind of crisis, the government not doing the needful. It is difficult for the lecturers to work efficiently or effectively in the system. They are not properly remunerated, and even the key demand, the basic demand, the tools of trade are not available. And in many cases, it's like we are sacrificing all that we have. We sacrifice our material, we sacrifice ourselves for the system, and the government appears not to be appreciative. And with all this, it will be difficult for the university to really be up there, to be in the list, in the global ranking, to be among the best of the best in the world.
All right, thank you very much. This is a safe place to land, Dr. Simeon Igbinedon. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. And we hope that the federal government and ASUU will come to a bargaining table and resolve this.
I hope so. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.